Hey, it's me, Banjo-Kazooie, and today is my retrospective review of one of my top 5 favorite video games of all time, Banjo-Kazooie for the Nintendo 64 and the Xbox Live Arcade. Now, it's no secret that I really like this game for those who've been following me. Heck, for those who just play this game in general knows how awesome this game is, so yeah, so much of finding out if I like this game or not, since I already told you, but just watch and just relive the good old days where a platformer used to rule the world. Banjo-Kazooie started as a Super Nintendo game under the name Project Dream. Now, as you can see here, the prototype looks absolutely nothing like the finished product. Originally, it was going to be an action-adventure pirate game starring a young boy named Edison who goes on this great pirate adventure to stop the evil Captain Black Eye. Now, I don't like to procrastinate my project because I don't want to fall way too behind, but in this case, my procrastination really paid off. Now, originally when I began this project, there was absolutely no information about Project Dream whatsoever until Rare finally released this footage of Project Dream gameplay. So now you have something to see instead of this one picture that was only available during that time. Development for Project Dream eventually moved to the Nintendo 64, but even by moving to a more powerful system, the game was still pretty difficult to develop for, with frame rate problems, bugs and glitches, and other technical problems. Rare wants to make this huge, giant RPG game, but the game became too hard and complicated, so they abandoned the project. Now, what inspired them to change the game from a pirate action adventure game to a platformer starring a bear and bird? Well, two games is responsible for that: Super Mario 64 and Conquer 64. Rare was split into different groups, about 2 or 3 I think. The Project Dream team was inspired by the Conquer team progress and made a change to a platformer. And now Banjo-Kazooie also took elements from Super Mario 64, which I will definitely show off the similarities throughout this video. During the development of Banjo-Kazooie, it was originally going to have more levels in the game, like a Fire World, which was moved to its sequel Banjo-Tooie, Fungus Forest, which was moved into Donkey Kong 64, and Giant Zero, which originally going to be the hub world for the game, but was abandoned entirely. Now, I know I'm leaving a lot of beta in this game. There's so much to talk about. That's one thing I like about Rare is that they have so many interesting stuff, even the stuff that they didn't use. Rare usually likes to move them to other projects, like I mentioned, a stage, and some of his music went into Donkey Kong 64, which I'll talk about in that retrospective. But all I can say is that I encourage you to look up the beta for Banjo-Kazooie. They have a lot of interesting stuff. But to keep this video short, let's talk about the actual game. In this retrospective review, I'm going to try something a little bit different. Instead of discussing of each stage and level one by one like I usually do, I'm going to talk about the best part, my favorite moments, some of the negative, and some nostalgia moments that I remember back when I was a kid. Pretty much, I'm trying to make this video shorter, so if you like this approach, please say so in the comments. I'm playing this game on the Xbox 360, which is pretty much the same as the Nintendo 64, but there are some differences between the two versions. For one, the music note in the HD version stay collected, while in the original, it resets back to 0 every time you die or leave the stage. There are also some background changes, specifically the Warren poster in Rusty Bucket Bay. Now, in the Nintendo 64 version, is a picture of Barry, or the beta picture of Barry, from Conker's 12 Tales, while in the HD remake, they changed it to a picture of Conker from Conker's Bad Fur Day. And last but not least, Stop and Shop is attainable in the HD version, while in the Nintendo 64, I think it can get them as a cheat code, but you can't really use them outside the game. While the HD version, you can use it on other Banjo-Kazooie games, well, the Xbox version at least. I remember back when I was 10 years old, I was really excited about this game thanks to the promotional video from Nintendo Power, and seeing that Railroad logo on the screen pretty much guaranteed greatness. The same people who made the Donkey Kong Country games and GoldenEye 64. Does it also live up to? Does Banjo-Kazooie live up to that potential? Well, you find out in this review, but it also helps that it plays like Super Mario 64. They have similar movesets, same story and same objective, which is collecting items and going to different worlds. But Banjo-Kazooie made some changes to this formula, like actually going around the level to look for the jiggies, while in Mario 64 it's more mission based, meaning once you get a star, you leave the level and go back to get your next mission. Now granted, you can get another star that wasn't your original mission, but some of them needs to be activated by picking a specific mission. I said mission too many times, so I'm sorry about that. But Banjo-Kazooie also learned some new moves along the way, while Mario, although it had different power-ups, pretty much sticks with the same moveset. And also Banjo-Kazooie has some character development, though pretty one-dimensional. Like Banjo, pretty much the serious one. Kazooie is the sarcastic, pretty much like to make fun of every character they meet. And Gruntilda, who's probably the most developed compared to the other characters, mainly because her sister Gruntilda tells secrets about her, which, well, we're better off not knowing about in the first place, but you're going to need to know that in one part of the game. Banjo-Kazooie is a collectible platform game, which means you go around exploring the level while getting items that will either help you use as a weapon or proceed to another part of the hub world. Each item has a purpose, and they are very useful, like the golden feather, which makes you invisible for a while. You're able to shoot eggs in front of you and behind you and fly around, well, once you find a fight pad, of course. It sounds like it could be very tedious and repetitive by the sounds of it, but the game actually keeps itself interesting by giving you new moves in almost each level thanks to Bottle Thermo, some transformation thanks to Mumbo Jumbo, and some interesting location to explore. The levels are designed so creatively, like exploring inside of a metal shark, climbing on top of a giant snowman, and going to a world that changes seasons depending on which story you go through. Heck, you need to complete one mission from a season to advance another mission at another season. There's so much more to talk about this game. That's just the only tip of the iceberg, but I don't want to give away too much. Don't want to give out too much spoilers. But exploring the world, heck, exploring the whole game to me is so interesting. I always want to explore each location thoroughly, especially the hidden areas, not only because it's part of the games, but particularly there's some leftover stuff in the game from Project Dream, like there's some assets of Fungus Force in the hub world. Heck, there's even a photo of Fungus Force at the beginning of the game in Banjo's room. There's also a photo of Captain Brat Guy in Mad Monster Mansion, and some possible market on the world that could be a part of Project Dream, but after seeing the footage in Rare's official YouTube page, that may not be the case. But hey, you know, that's an interesting theory. Granted, not as interesting as the Five Nights at Freddy's lore, but you can come up with crazy ideas when you play the game long enough. The only stage I really don't like is Rusty Bucket Bay. I feel like that level drags on too long, and especially the engine room, I always died there and ended up rage quitting that level. The transformation is the only thing I didn't like about this game. It was kind of disappointing to me. Now, don't get me wrong, they're not terrible, and they do have their importance in the game, but they have very limited abilities. Most of them don't even have an attack. In fact, I think only one transformation has an attack, and that's the alligator. That's pretty much my favorite one, and my second favorite would have to be the bee because he has unlimited flying abilities. But other than that, the transformations are pretty basic, but they are useful in finding hidden areas. Pretty much this character named Cheeto, every time you find him in a hidden location, he gives you a password that you can use on Treasure Trove Cove, and you can use it to increase your red feathers, deer eggs, and golden feathers. They're not mandatory, but they're very helpful, especially with the final battle against Gruntilda. There's not that many boss battles in this game. There's only one, which is the final battle with Gruntilda. And you just want to count these battles against these giant monsters, which I don't because they're pretty easy to defeat. Anyway, this game doesn't really need boss battles. The real fun comes from the exploration itself. I feel like I'm dragging on with this video so long, so here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to give you my top favorite levels of Banjo-Kazooie, and then I finish on out. Number 5 is Treasure Trove Cove. The first stage was good, but this is where the game really starts to pick up. The stage is bright and lively, almost like you're on an actual beach. It's also riding in the fly, which is one of my favorite abilities in this game. I still hate that shock though. Number 4 is Mad Monster Mansion. There's a lot of interesting place, and at first look, it really doesn't look like it. You probably think it's be a haunted house and that's it, which I would have been okay with, but you also explore a cemetery, a maze, and other unusual places. But the main reason why this is on the list is because of the final part sounding like it's saying F you instead of thank you. Number 3 is Quaker's Cavern. I remember the trailer showing off Banjo meeting Quaker for the first time. It was one of the coolest moments ever, and it really got me hyped about the game. The level isn't that bad either, already exploring around the metal shark, but exploring underwater is also pretty fun. I feel like it did underwater better than Super Mario 64, and similar shots has been fired. Number 2 is the board game level. Okay, technically not a level in Banjo-Kazooie, but this is one of the most epic moments in this game. Pretty much you go around on each space, and depending on which space you got, you have to do a certain mission to complete, or it's just answering a question, like what makes this sound, who's this character, or even just replaying part of the game. It's actually the most fun part about Banjo-Kazooie. And the number 1 stage of Banjo-Kazooie is Freezy Peak. Now for those who are following my retrospective videos, I'm always a sucker for the ice stage, and this is no different. You'd think I'd be sick of ice stages by now, which is pretty much white backgrounds with, white everywhere, but Banjo-Kazooie still managed to bring some color to it by adding Christmas decorations, those colorful stuff on the snowman, and even the item pops out more in the white backgrounds, though technically they don't count as decorations, but they're still nice to see. This is one of those stages that you need to experience in order to get what I get. It may not look as the best stage ever, but boy is there a lot of places to explore. I imagine this is pretty much every kid's fantasy, fantasy snow day during the school semester. At least that's what I assume, because I live in the south where snow doesn't exist, and that's before global warming kids. Banjo-Kazooie is one of my favorite games of all time, as I said at the beginning of the video. It's definitely a game that everybody should try out, especially fans of platformers. I remember as a kid, I was truly hyped for this game, and it's one of those rare occasions, no pun intended, that my expectation not only was met, but was surpassed as well. This is one of the greatest games ever. It's one of those games that I always like to play like once every year. Well, it's kind of becoming once every a few years since there's so many games I want to replay. But Banjo-Kazooie is truly one of them. As for sales, Banjo-Kazooie made 3.65 sales, which is actually pretty impressive for a new IP. And of course, for those who are familiar with Banjo-Kazooie, it has sequels, which now usually I talk about everything that happens after Banjo-Kazooie, but Banjo-Tooie is on my retrospective list, so you have to wait until then. But to keep it short, there's Banjo-Tooie, which I'm definitely going to do a review on that. There's a handheld called Banjo-Kazooie Going to Revenge, which is pretty unknown, and I'm not going to touch on that. I may talk about more in the Banjo-Tooie retrospective. There's also Banjo Pirate, which I touched on my Diddy Kong Racing retrospective. And there's a game on the Xbox 360, which is a feature review, and I don't want to give out too much spoilers, so you have to be patient on that one. But other than that, give this game a buy, and definitely recommend it to other players. Thank you for watching my video. My next retrospective review will be Jet Force Gemini for the Nintendo 64. Tune in to that one, and if you like this video, give it a like, subscribe, and if you like this new style, please say so in the comments. Thank you and goodbye.